I got to go into the different companies that's laying off. First thing is a paper mill that's laying off. And the national paper mill closes local sites.
This is a pivotal moment. We could not have predicted this would have happened, but it has happened. And since it has happened,
is that Savannah,
reaction...
Georgia? Is there any other Savannahs in the United States of America? Because like I know it's more Birminghams. I know it's a lot of other countries, or I know it's a lot of other cities that's named some of the things. Is there another Savannah somewhere outside of Georgia?
To this, how we react, how we respond in this moment will define exactly who we are.
Our top story tonight, hundreds of jobs are set to be lost next month at International Paper, including the Savannah and Riceboro mills and the Savannah packaging facility. Employees showed up thinking it would be a normal workday, only to learn that their jobs were being cut.
Families are speaking out about the impact from financial stress to losing their health care coverage, and the community is bracing for the ripple effect across industries. WSCV's Sarah Smith is joining us now live at the Savannah Mill with what comes next.
Well, behind me is just one of 3 of those International Paper locations between Savannah and Riceboro, where employees clocked in this morning expecting it to be an ordinary workday. But they knew the news that they got was so shocking, and probably the worst part was that they then had to call their family members and let them know.
I get a call from him today saying, we just had a meeting, they're closing the mill.
A wife and mother shocked to hear the news that her husband and over 1,000 others were losing their jobs at International Paper. The announcement gives them a month to figure out their future.
That's crazy to me. They should have gave the employees months in advance. So they...
Fam, listen. If they're giving you a month's notice, that's probably more of a blessing than you realize, because I've seen people walked out the doors locked, and they was trying to figure out how they was going to get their last paycheck. It's always sad to see people get laid off. It's always sad to see people lose their jobs. But I don't know how y'all have not come to expect it at this point. Since I was able to open up my eyes, I've always seen people lose jobs. I've always seen people get laid off, even people that worked at the big 3. It was cyclical. In the 80s, my dad said he hated the 80s. I said, Dad, why you hate the 80s? He said the 80s was so poor. That's what he used to say. He said the 80s was a reduction in everything. He said people was trying to figure out how to hold on to jobs. He said inflation was super high. He said the cars was all downsized and undersized from the 70s. He said, and they start still trying to stick halfway V6s inside of cars that was meant to have V8s in order to try to reduce the gas consumption, because gas was super high in the 80s. He said, man, I don't know why people look back and try to act like the 80s was so awesome. He said 80s had high interest rates. He said the cost for interest rates to buy a home was high. He said, man, people was getting laid off left and right. He said you had to make sure that you had more than one job. You had to make sure that you had more than one job. So when I was growing up, it just wasn't abnormal for people to just be laid off. I was just a regular. That was the skinny of it. If you had a regular job, at some point throughout the time that you was working, you was going to be laid off. You were going to be laid off. So from the time that I was ever able to open up my eyes and observe people and say, you know what? This industry is upending. This industry is upending. When I first got to the steel mill, honestly, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was saying to myself, oh, I'm not going to be here for the rest of my life. And the people, they looked at me like I was stupid, and they was like, man, you just like the rest of us. I said, bro, I'm not going to be here. I said, man, because I remember we had got into a debate in one of the little booths, because we used to have these booths that everybody would come in, in between coils and stuff like that. And then I had transferred over from the pickling lines out to shipping. And so when I was in the shipping yard, that's when we would, have people go in, load them up on the trucks, and have them sent out to either go and do another process, or we would have it shipped out to another, to wherever it is, the stamping plants. And so when I was working in shipping, when we was outside, everybody would come in. And we was having this debate because we was something that was happening, and somebody was getting like $100,000 buyout or something like that. And we started using that number. And we was making like $100K a year. And somebody asked, and they was like, man, if they would offer $100,000 buyout, would y'all take it? Would y'all take it? And everybody said no. And I was the only person that said yes. They said, why would you take $100,000 buyout? It, you know, with overtime and all of the hustling that we doing, we make more than that right now. And I said, bro, because I don't plan on being here. And I said, if somebody was to give me $100,000 buyout right now, I would take that as a sign that it's time for me to leave. And I would go and finesse that and go and move on to something different. I would go and move on to something different. And there was this nerd guy with glasses on, and he always kept asking about Hugo Boss suits every day. And he used to come in and show pictures of him over the weekend, and he used to wear these big Steve Harvey suits for some reason. And he always used to come in and show, and he was the crane operator. He was like, man, it ain't no money. Man, you can't quit for that. You can't quit for that. I said, bro, it ain't about the money. It's about the fact that I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be here. I said, listen, I ain't tripping. And, I was a lot more abrasive. I was really, really, really abrasive then. Y'all think I'm bad now. I was really abrasive now. Abrasive. I said, man, I said, y'all tripping over this money? I said, dog, I don't plan on being here, bro. I said, I'm going to get bigger and better things. I want more than that Bentley. I want more than this Trailblazer SS. I want more than that. I said, bro, I'm gonna be rich, bro. So I ain't trying to be in here with y'all for the next 30 years. And they took that like an insult. My other homeboy was like, bro, that's real talk. He was the only other person that was with me. His name was Julian. And we would always talk about getting matching Bentleys. That's all we talk. Man, I always had greater aspirations and greater dreams. So I was never planning on, no matter what job I got, whether it was at a call center or it was in the steel mill, I never planned on being there forever. I expected at some point to get laid off. And I was always thinking to myself, man, if I could just figure out a way to get out of there, God was like, I got you. Fired. I got you. Fired. Time to get on up out of there. Go and figure that out. And time to become the man that you're supposed to be. Y'all working at a paper mill, you think with all of this AI technology, I don't even remember the last time that I got paper. When the last time y'all went and bought paper? When is the last time that y'all went and bought paper? I'll give you another clue, and I'm going to get to the rest of this. In my mind, I'm thinking to myself, this is small beans for me. As much as I like the Millionaire Morning Show, as much as I like the Anton Daniels channel, as much as I like After Hours, man, I got bigger goals and bigger objectives than this. And some people will say, man, you make it. It's the same fucking thing as that was happening back at the steel mill. Man, you doing well. Look at all the money that you're making. Look at the subscribers that you got. Man, last night I went to sleep. I was thinking to myself, and I don't give a fuck about no subscribers, bro. What am I chasing? The only reason that I'm going after the 1 million subscribers on the Anton Daniels channel was so I can leverage it into better brand deals, because it looks better when you pitch somebody and you say, okay, I got 1 million subscribers and this is the numbers that we doing. You can pitch better as far as the marketing and brand deals or whatever. So I won't take no brand deals until I get it. And so I'm gonna just wait until the beginning of next year in order to start to pitch for that. But honestly, bro, for me, I'm thinking bigger, bro. I'm thinking bigger. I'm thinking way bigger, better, more. The way that I dream is just different from everybody else. And that's what then puts me on the pathway to work harder. But these people, if it's me, I'm looking at it as a blessing. I know some people would get hurt at layoffs and stuff like that, but I was always on some like, yo, this is the next move. I didn't know I was going to have to suffer before I get to the next move. But I always was thinking to myself, this is the next move, man.
Go ahead and start looking for jobs so they have that security for their families and for them.
The company has provided jobs for thousands of locals over 9 decades. This job was a blessing for the family.
My daughter, she has special needs, and we rely on consistent health care and therapy and support services that are expensive and ongoing, and this job is really help with that. Losing this job just means losing our health insurance, financial security all at once. And to be honest, it's terrifying to think about how we will manage moving forward right now.
In a press release, leadership wrote, quote, "While difficult, these decisions are essential to positioning International Paper for long-term success."
I hope the community and leaders recognize the human cost behind these closures and provide support to help families.
Their goal is to provide value back to whoever owns the company, the shareholders, whether it's a publicly traded company or if it's a privately owned company. Their job is not to the employees. Their job is to make sure that they continue to add value to the shareholders. I don't know why y'all keep thinking that they care about you. You got to be selfish, bro. Everything that you do, it could benefit the company also, but you need to be focusing. Y'all need to be working on yourself, man. That's the biggest thing that I can tell you. Work on yourself. Everything that you do has to be self-preservation in mind. And then you grow into getting into an abundance mindset. And when you get out of survival mode, then it's in thrive mode. Everything got to be for yourself, bro. Everything got to be for yourself. Self-preservation is the only thing that y'all need to be having a conversation about when it comes to these companies. Never be loyal to a company. Be appreciative, be thankful, do your job well, don't get involved in all of the other nonsense. And see, again, this is one of those situations where it's like, you know, people will be in there making friends. You got all of these people that's in there every single day. Guess what? Guess what? They'll never hear from each other again. You came in, you was hustling, you felt some type of way, you was on it, you so on and so forth. And guess what? One layoff, none of these people you'll never hear from again. Outside of the business contacts that I've kept in order to ensure that my success is still what it is, I ain't checking for these people that I used to work for or work with. I ran into somebody the other day and they said, "Man, you remember such and such, such and such?" I said, "Nah, who was that?" "Y'all used to work together and such." I said, "Man, I don't. Honestly, I don't remember these people." "Oh man, okay, well, yeah, man, they had a little accident." I was like, "All right." I don't be caring. I'll be on to the next thing.
Like ours rebuild.
Savannah Chamber President and CEO Burt Brantley told News 3 he pledges his support to the men and women affected.
What we're all going to do is rally around and figure out how do we get information to the employees about the opportunities that are here. I think it's really critical to make sure we all recognize we are a growing economy. There are opportunities for these folks to stay here and be successful here.
Cap. And
Now,
another thing y'all need to do is go move and chase the money. Move where the money is. Move where the money is. One thing I see people doing a lot that they make a mistake on is they sit there and they stay in a place in order to try to maintain the community feel that they've built. Man, I'll move and go where the money is, bro. Wherever they paying you, you go. Stop limiting y'all search to only your area, only your city, only your state. I want to be 30 minutes, 45 minutes away from wherever it is that I'm working. Man, you better go get that money, bro. You got to go get that money, man. Stop being loyal to your area. If you want to, you can come back every weekend, or you can come back every 2 weeks or a month, or you could just work remote and fly back or whatever. But go where the money is, bro. I was willing to go get the money no matter where it is and where it was going. Only thing is, guy was like, "Nah, I want you to just stay here." But listen. When I was hunting after 07, 08, when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, I had made up in my mind, all right, so cool. I got these classes. I'm going to go to school online. I got these classes. I'm going to go to school online. And I was thinking to myself, but I got to go get this money. That's when I had started interviewing. I had interviewed for Whirlpool Manufacturing to oversee quality control and the acid purification process based off of my experience at the plant and stuff. I was like, yo, I drove 4 hours for an interview, and I had got the job offer too. I drove 4 hours for an interview. 4 hours. 4 hours. I was willing to go out. I drove 4 hours there and I drove 4 hours back. It was like an 11, 12-hour thing because I was interviewing for like 3 hours when I was there. And I remember I was driving a Grand Prix. I was driving a green Grand Prix. I was like, Rita said, because I had a little baby daughter, Rita said, so what you gonna do? It's so far away. I said, I'll be back on the weekends. If I get the job, she said, if they offer you the position and you take it, what you gonna do? I said, come back on the weekends until I find something more better and more efficient and I can run up a better bag. I said, but we need this right now. I need this bag right now. Care nothing about what you talking about. I'm out. I'll be back on the weekend to see my daughter. Make sure y'all good. I'll send some money home. I'm gonna make sure everything is straight. She said, well, should we move out there with you? I said, nope. I ain't gonna be here long. Listen, bro, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I done seen some things. I done some things. She said, would bring the baby up? I said, nope. Stay right there. Keep her in school where she at. I ain't gonna be out here long. I'm here till I'm not. And I'll be back on the weekend. I said, ain't none of this permanent. I'm going to school and I'm coming back. I'm coming back that way. I didn't care, bro. I was willing to do whatever it took. All of that, that's when everything stopped. That's when everything stopped as far as I put all of the childish shit away. I stopped playing video games. I stopped hanging out with all of the friends. I stopped being so easily accessible to everybody. And for me, I went into monk mode and everything was to make sure that I run up a bag. I didn't care nothing about nothing except for running up a bag and putting myself in a position to take advantage of the low cost of housing. I didn't care nothing about nothing except for going and getting that money and making the adjustment. Everything was gone after that. No games, no playing, none of that. No Xbox Live, no PlayStation, no nothing. I was like, you know what? It was just time to hustle. It was grind time. Every waking moment that I got that I was able to spend on my own, I was in the library, I was studying, I was doing my homework, I was doing schoolwork, I was putting together business plans. I was using the high-speed internet at the library to do it better and faster and all of that stuff. Man, I ain't got time for that nonsense. I had a baby, bro. When I seen my daughter in the hospital and she was born, I looked at her in her eyes and I said, you're never going to need or want for anything. You're never going to be dependent on nothing. You're never going to be dependent on the federal government. You're never going to need no food stamps. You're never going to have student loans. None of that. It's hustle time. It's hustle time. And she took a picture the other day or this morning because it was her first day of school today. And she was so cute. She was so fresh. I recently gave her I gave her my first Rolex. Yep, I gave her my first Rolex. So she was sweet. She had her Avizus on. Oh, I gave her my first Rolex. That's the Rolex. She got the Rolex on her arm. I gave her my first Rolex. So now she a Roly girl. She's a Roly girl. She decided to take the Challenger, the Hellcat, to school today. So gave her my first Rolex. She said, Dad, this is a heirloom. We don't need to ever get rid of this. I said, I know. That's why you're responsible for it. Meant a lot to me. Meant a lot to me. Go get your money. Go take care of your business. Go run your bags up. Put your kids in a position to not need no government assistance in order for them to thrive. We not filling out no FAFSAs. Fuck a FAFSA. We off that. We not filling out no FAFSAs. We don't need no Pell Grants. We don't need no student loans. We don't need none of that. Anything you need, you can go ahead and tap into Dad. Anything you need, you come call your father. You don't call, I'm your daddy, not the government. I'm your daddy, not the government. You call me. You don't call, you can reach out to no government agency.